PJNet.TV Part 2. It is 9:30 on the eastern coast of the United States. That means that it's time for a trip around the Cross W with J.D. Wininger. We are recording. Our bumper is rolling. J.D. is standing by in the green room, and the chat room is eager to see it. So let's switch to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome back. Look at that. Around the Cross W, folks. You are watching PJNet.TV. We are live. And by the way, if you're watching this on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and you're watching this live, welcome. And we invite you to come join all the friends that have gathered over at PJNet.TV in our live chat room. And the reason that they have gathered is, one, the fellowship is great, but number two, we're going to take us a little trip around the Cross W with J.D. Wininger, whose brand is his brand, and he is standing by eager to tell us a lot of wisdom and truth. J.D., we hadn't talked in a while, but your blog today tells me that you're up and at 'em, and you're not traveling on the road. You've got your trusty shotgun there in the corner. Your dog is probably not too far away, Bubba.
Bubba's in the garage.
He's in the garage. He ain't getting no moccasins lately, has he?
No, he's behaving himself lately.
Well, JD, I always get thrilled. I didn't make a comment on your blog this week, but I certainly was touched. You've told stories about your brother before on your blog and here on PJNet.TV, but this time it's got a little different slant. So tell us about Stretch.
Well, sir, my little brother, as you mentioned, his nickname was Stretch, and when you're 6'5" tall, that's a pretty good nickname. But old Stretch was quite a fella. But over the past month, with all this craziness that's going on with the coronavirus and everybody just running around and buying up everything they can buy at the stores, and they don't know why, they just know they have to run the stores out of everything. And seeing all this craziness that's happening, and I'm going, Lord, why am I seeing my fellow Christians going crazy and being just as stupid? And and it just kind of bothered me. I'm going, because there ain't nothing in this world worth holding on to. There's nothing worth having in this world. Now, I love my wife and my cows and things, but Lord, you can have me when you want me. I'm okay with that. And I just kept questioning, why is the world so panicked and so crazy and so willing to give up their liberties and their freedoms and the inalienable rights that God gave us? But because there's a bug going around that is not as deadly when you count pure numbers, it just isn't there, Coach, when you look at the numbers. But folks get all worked up over it, and I think it's because the media gets all worked up over it. You know, we lost a whole lot more people every day in World War II than we did in Vietnam, but people didn't protest World War II. They protested Vietnam because they kept showing how many people were killed every day on the news, as I recall. Same thing happened in the Middle East, Coach. And the media is a powerful tool. Unfortunately, it's a two-edged sword. And I think sometimes the pendulum is swinging more towards the bad than to the positive that can come out of the media. That's why I love PJNet so much. But I'm thinking about that, and all this time for the past month, I keep hearing old Stretch in the background saying what he's always said. It's okay, man. I know where I'm going. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm going, maybe I need to make sure the world remembers that. If you're a Christian and things are going bad, I go back to Daniel chapter 3 and the 3 boys that's fixing to get thrown into the furnace because they wouldn't bow to King Nebuchadnezzar's golden image, And they said, we know our Lord's going to save us, but even if he doesn't, it's going to be all right because we know where we're going. We're his, right? We're bought. We're paid for. And so it's okay. I know where I'm going, and I really got thinking about that, and of course that led me to want to stretch his other sayings. Paul, uh, he used to always talk about this. He said, "Man, because he was certain he was going to be taken in the rapture, but God had other plans. But he said, when we get up to heaven, Jim, he said, there's going to be a whole lot of folks that smell like they lived their life in the smokehouse. Yeah. And they're just charred. And he's talking about the judgment, and the Bema seat, the judgment seat of Christ, not the great judgment or the great white judgment, but what's going to happen with all the Christians that are called up in the rapture, where our life is going to be put forth. And we're going to see what we built upon that foundation. All the things that we did in this world are going to be judged, Coach, and a lot of them are going to burn away. And I remember Paul telling me, I sure don't want to be standing there with nothing to lay at the Lord's feet. When the elders, the 24 elders, give their gifts to the Lord, I don't want to stand there empty-handed. I don't want to be in the back of the crowd. And of course, what can you say to that? But amen. Yeah. And so it really drove home the important message that Mama always reinforced with us, and that was know why you're doing something. What's the motive behind what you're doing it? Are you doing it to help somebody else, or are you doing it to help yourself, to make yourself look important, look bigger than you are? Uh, and things. Are you doing it because God laid it on your heart to do? And that's a great question. I think we all need to ask ourselves every now and again, why are we doing what we're doing, Coach? But that's what was on my heart when I wrote this blog over the weekend. And I just want to remind everybody, if you're in the PJNet chat room, I'd say there's a 95% chance or better that you're saved, and you belong to God. You're a child of God. Don't forget. Don't let this world beat you down. Don't let this world rob you of your joy and your peace. Because, folks, it's like Christ's brother James said, we ain't but a vapor. We're just here for a little while. And, what happens here doesn't matter, Coach. It's what we do while we're here is preparing us for what we'll do in eternity. And we need to remember that, Coach.
JD, you talk about what you do is important while you're here, and it's a little hard to say, but I just feel led to tell you. When times like this are, you face these and you reflect back on what your brother Stretch said. See, Stretch is still kind of alive in a way in your heart. So
Amen.
why we don't need to fear death. The thing that we need to fear is us being here never mattered.
Mm. Yeah.
The other thing that we need to fear, I used to take a ride on my motorcycle. I called it Soul Patrol. And you have to stop if you want to get a cup of coffee. You can't take that with you, so you got to kind of hang out. And I'd start conversations. People would start, actually. And people would say things that, like, riding a motorcycle is dangerous. Don't you have you considered the danger in what you're doing? And I said, we're all going to die, but many of us never lived.
Right.
What good is it to live? And I place that in the context of our current situation. Okay, we're alive. We're locked inside we've imprisoned ourselves in our own houses. We're afraid to even shake hands with somebody. We're afraid to go to the store.
Yes.
At some point, I think we need to ask ourselves the question: what is the point of living? Okay, and as I reflect on that, I certainly hope that any Christian. Well, here's one for you. Remember when Whitney Houston died? That was a big deal, At her funeral, I kept hearing all these things about how she was a Christian. And I thought to myself, well, I certainly didn't know that. And then something very profound dawned upon me. I hope that nobody that is in attendance at my funeral finds out I was a Christian at that funeral.
Amen. Isn't that a sad thought? Oh my goodness, Coach. Yeah. You kind of struck on something there, Coach. I braved shopping today for the family, and it just amazed me. Walmart, they had people at the doors, and they had a little pass that you had to walk around and go through, and tape on the ground. Oh, you got to stay 6 feet apart now, and everything. But it amazed me as I'm going through the aisles, and yeah, there's a lot of empty shelves and things. But what amazed me was how nobody would look at one another. Everybody had their head down, and they're just walking, and they're keeping their distance, and they're not greeting anybody or smiling, or even a head nod. You got nothing from people. It's like they're walking around like they're doggone zombies or something, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, how sad is that? So, the point is, when we're like that, when we let fear win, when we let this world win, Coach, we're no longer living. We're simply existing. And what's the purpose of that? What good is that? But you're right. You're talking about Whitney Houston, and Lord, I hope nobody suddenly realizes at my memorial that I was a Christian. If they didn't know it before then, oh Lord, how I have failed. And that's a terrible thought. If we don't show it in our lives every day, then we're dishonoring the sacrifice that Christ made for us to be that. Are we not?
Well, here's another little test I give myself. Suppose you do set aside the contemporary situation. Suppose that you encounter somebody in your day-to-day activity, and you introduce yourself, and how long into that conversation does it take for them to know, oh, he's a Christian?
Mm.
We need to have a pretty short burning fuse there. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
or
if you can't tell it, then I ain't living it, am I?
It's a challenge. Because I meet people that are strangers, and you can just tell their vocabulary is peppered with well, have like one of the salutations, have a blessed day, have a blessed day. Well, that's sort of the Christian version of virtue signaling. It's a way that they can signal, hey, the good day that you have is a blessing. It is not of your own. It is of God. And there are so many. I'm sad to hear your testimony going to Walmart, because, yes, okay, we do need to be cautious. We do need to be good stewards. We need to be common sense careful. But there's no reason we can't smile. There's no reason we can't hold our head up. We don't have to go around with our knuckles dragging the floor and our shoulders slumped down. And some people can eat a dadgum corn off the cob through a picket fence. Their face is so long.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, hey, we got a little extra time here. Anything happening at the ranch?
Well, Coach. Well, not too much is happening. We had a little calf the other week, Thursday, and that little rascal is just running circles around everybody today. Lorenzo is his name. Miss Diane named him after her grandfather, so he's Lorenzo. But I did promise to everybody in my promo that I'd share with you one of my very favorite sayings from my brother Paul. As I mentioned earlier, Paul was certain he was going to be taken up in the rapture. And that's a great goal to have, I reckon. But the one that always made the family chuckle was Paul. Now, keep in mind, and the folks that have seen my blog saw a picture of Paul. He's a big old hugger in his later years. In that part, we resemble one another. But old Paul would say, and he had hands, my goodness, his hands would make two of mine, Coach. He was just a huge man, and just a heart just as big. But he would say, you know what? When the rapture comes, he says, and I'm ascending, I'm going up. He said, I'm going to grab me a sinner by the collar, one in each hand, and I'm going to take them suckers up with me. He said, when we get about halfway up to them clouds, he said, I'm just going to look over to them and go, well, boys, do y'all believe or do I let go? The picture Paul says this, it just always brings a smile, Coach. It's just a wonderful blessing. Yeah. Do you believe or do I let go? Yes, sir. now, now that's a testimony.
Oh my. Okay. Well, in any event, it's I'm seeing a lot of people. I'm encouraged in so many ways. We can talk about the bad things, and they're very real, and we need to act accordingly. But at the same time, I am seeing so much good. People are pouring out on social media. They're actually, I think they're having to live for themselves. I talked about that in the last segment with Ken Edwards. Is I've got to live with myself, and you get to think, well, who am I? Because so many of us, we define ourselves by our work, by what we produce.
Oh, sure. Yes, sir.
And so now people are having to look inwardly and perhaps redefine themselves. And I think if we would take a deep look in our heart, if you're a believer, we should first be Christians. Then we should be ranchers. Then we should be consultants. Then we should be workers at, and then fill in the blank. That I consider my job, my day job, an assignment. It's an assignment that enables me to do this, to do ministry.
Yeah. This is a good opportunity for us to get our priorities straight, isn't it, sir?
If we look down, and I'm seeing a lot of good. JD, we've come a long way, and I just want to celebrate for a moment. The people that have been a part of this, and you're one of them, JD, because you have been here faithfully week after week after week, and I look back to that time when we first talked, and I'm kind of setting something up here. There's an agenda, but take your mind back to the first time that we spoke. Your initial reaction, I think I would have to characterize as fear.
Yes, sir. You sure you want me, man? I'm Elmer Fudd on acid. You can do better than this, yes, sir.
And I see so much fear out there, and I think that on my part, this has been a wonderful journey. I mean, we've gotten to know each other. I can't wait to meet you and shake your hand and give you whatever virus I've got, and
we're past the handshaking, Coach. You're getting hugged. Bro.
Yeah. Well, I got, I think my arms will get around you. I'm not sure. I will find out.
Yeah,
but
certain.
Yet there's so much fear, grasping people. And they're afraid, and some people are just afraid of the camera, and I guess that's understandable. But at the same time, how do we overcome those fears?
Well, Coach, the best advice, and it's funny because I've given this advice to be up on stage and present to folks. I've talked to crowds as large as 6,500 before, and I've given a lot of advice to a lot of young people. About presenting to upper management or presenting at an assembly and things. And I learned to take my own advice finally after I started working with you. Of course, kudos to you because you put us at ease, Coach. But the key to being able to speak in public, and whether it's on a camera or it's in front of thousands of people, is to talk to one person at a time, Coach. Mm-hmm. Look that person in the eye. Mm-hmm. Talk to them. Yeah. And I'm able to do that with you, and that's what makes these conversations so easily. Yeah. But when that person turns away, when that person blinks or looks away, go make eye contact with the next person. Mm-hmm. find the next person in line and just talk to one person. You're not talking to 100 people. You're not talking to 1,000 people. You're talking to one person, heart to heart, Coach.
That's good advice, and if I wish I had the other cameras set up, but the way this studio is laid out, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 monitors in front of me that surround me.
Oh my goodness!
But I have one monitor that's on the back wall, right back there, and the camera is between me and that monitor. So guess where I'm projecting the output of this program? So I have to look through that camera. That keeps my eyes focused there. But you make a good point. I was thinking, and in fact, I was in deep prayer today for somebody, and we'll make an announcement hopefully very, very soon. See if she's in here. No, she's. Fear is first of all. I've said this before, but since we've got a little extra time, I'm gonna say it again. We are born with 3 fears: fear of falling, fear of darkness, and the fear of a sudden loud noise. In other words, all other fears learn. Now, that's not to say fear isn't good. Okay? If you see a rattlesnake, you need to kind of be afraid to act accordingly, but we have learned to fear. But anyway, I'm struggling with something, and we'll make the announcement later. But I was literally going to. Do you remember that film Rocky, when he was going up against Clubber Lang and he just couldn't get motivated, and and the trainers were trying to work with him. It'll come, let it happen, And finally, his wife talked to him, and Rocky he just got vulnerable, and he said, "Look, I'm afraid." Mm-hmm. So. And of course, that was the turning point in the movie. Now, from there, so it dawned on me that the first step in defeating fear would have to be to acknowledge that you're afraid.
Yeah.
You can't overcome the fear if you deny it, if you make excuses, if you rationalize your fear, saying it's not that I'm afraid, it's that, and then you make some stupid excuse. But we have an amazing capacity to deceive ourselves.
Oh, we sure do, Coach.
So if you're afraid, admit that you're afraid. Admit that you're afraid to yourself. Face your fear by admitting it. And it's like an alcoholic. They need to admit it. Anyway, I'll cut you off.
I think back to Airborne school. This is decades ago, Coach. But you get up there and you got this rubber band attached, and you're going to static line jump out of the back of a C-130. And you're up there about 8,000 feet or so. And green light comes on, and you're in your stick, and out you go. So the first time, just the excitement, because you got to make 5 jumps to earn your airborne qualification badge. So the first time is easy, Coach. That was a piece of cake. Second time wasn't so much, because I remembered what that experience was and what it felt like to fall until that parachute opened its thing and realized you were completely dependent upon that rigger that packed your chute and that rubber band that was going to hold and open your parachute. And so for me, it was the second time that I come out of the back of an airplane. And then when I went to Halo school and I had to jump from 25 and 30,000 feet on oxygen.
Halo, folks, is high altitude, low opening.
5,000 feet,
You didn't know I knew that, did you?
What's that, sir?
Halo, high altitude, low opening.
Yes, sir. That's it. You're in Arizona. Proving grounds. Yes, sir. Got to learn how to stick it. But, oh, my goodness, that's a whole new level of fear being ratcheted up. And the fact is, you can either conquer fear or fear is going to conquer you. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid of the unknown, because it goes right back to what my brother Paul used to always tell me. I know where I'm going. It's okay. So whatever happens in this life, doesn't matter, Coach. If I make a fool out of myself, it's okay. God still loves me. I'm still going to heaven. Mm-hmm. It's all good.
It's all good. So you've actually jumped out of a perfectly working airplane.
Oh, yes, sir.
with a parachute. So now the
Uh,
question would be, would you jump out of a perfectly working airplane without a parachute?
no, sir.
That's the usual answer.
I wouldn't, because, you know, I will not tempt God. I trust
What
God.
if
I know
what
where
if
I'm
the
going.
what if the plane were on the ground, sir?
No, sir. Not at my age, I wouldn't.
What if the plane was on fire and on the ground?
Well,
There's a couple of
yes,
things you
sir.
learn
That is,
in flying a plane to become a pilot before you ever start learning about the instruments, the controls and all that, the technical stuff, the physics.
mm-hmm.
There's two principles that all pilots must learn. The first and foremost, number one, always trust your instruments, not your instincts. When your
Mm-hmm.
instincts are at odds with your instruments, trust the instrument. It
Trust
is
your
more like
instruments. That's
your
right.
instincts are more likely wrong than your instrument. And
Mm-hmm.
principle number two is the only time you can have too much gas is when you're on fire.
I'll have to remember that, Coach.
All right. Well, JD, it's been a lot of
Yes,
fun, and can't wait for next week's trip around the Cross W. I guess
yes,
no
sir.
travel's on your radar because travel's just off everybody's
No,
radar.
sir. I've got 3 more days before I get to hug my wife, because I've kind of been in self quarantine in the house. So I'm going to behave myself, keep boiling myself every time I go out somewhere, and looking forward to Sunday morning when I can hug my wife and kiss her. Honey, I'm home.
There you
So
go.
looking forward to that, Coach.
All right. Well, JD, thank you so much for
You
sharing
bet.
with
Thanks,
us. It's
everyone.
it's
God
always
bless.
great to take a trip around the Cross W with JD. That happens every Thursday night right here on pjnet.tv. Special thanks to those of you logged into the chat room. We'll just kind of run down the roster. Ben Cooper is here. Connie's here. Diane is here. Doug's here. Gina's here. Sounds like Romper Room, doesn't it? Steve's here. Joy is here. And Ken Edwards is here. Rachel's here. Sunbelt Girl's here. JD just joined in. Folks, let me give you a quick update. We are in the process of gearing up the computer that we acquired last August that really has about 3 to 4 times the horsepower that the one we're using is. So we'll be able to do some new things that we want to do starting this summer. And I spent like an hour the other night going over getting a video card for, because I do have all these monitors. I use 4 monitors for that computer. So Amazon has now got this thing to where they've prioritized deliveries. So video cards range between $200 and $1,600. I mean, or $100, and it's a big range in price. So you find one that's the right price, and then you find out, oh, we can't deliver that until the end of April, and say, well, let me go find something else. And then you got to worry about the connectivity, because you got to have a cable between the card and the monitor. And I've got these kind of already got, and when you got 4 monitors, those cables add to the price of the card if you have to get new cables. So I struggled with this for well over an hour, probably an hour and a half, but I finally got that sweet spot between price, availability, and connectivity by cable. And it came in. So today I took the computer apart, put the video card in there, took the cable out of the package, and found that it would not plug into the video card. I thought, I spent so much time trying to get this right. How could I have made a mistake? Well, I went and looked at my order, and I looked at the specifications. The specifications say that the card has one type of connector, but the card, apparently they've changed it, and they just never updated the information on the website. So, guess what? Had to order some more cables. I'll be sending those other ones back. So that's been delayed a little bit. We've run into some other little hurdles, but folks, the point I'm making is that we are not going to sit here where we are. I am really proud of what we have done together with just a small core group such as this. But the point being is that we will never be more than what we are unless we push it, unless we lean forward. We've got to surge forward to make an impact out there. Folks, as good as we're doing, we've got to get to 1,000 views on the videos. That's the first goal. And that's not all that great, by the way. Okay, and we're doing very well. We are well in triple digits now when we used to struggle to get 2 digits. And but I think it's going to be harder to get from 0 to 1,000 than it will be to get from 1,000 to 4,000 views. Folks, when this team together can build up each other and help each other out and get this content out there and get the gospel message, the good news, when we can get 4,000 views, folks, at that point, I mean, think about that. We're doing that once a day, sometimes twice a day, and in the future we'll be doing 4 a day. We're going to have 8, 8:30, 9, and 9:30, probably starting this summer. Okay? We are going to beam out the gospel message in a way that at that point I'll say, now we can take a water break or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, folks, it's been wonderful tonight. You all are such a blessing to me, and I thank you. For those of you in the chat room, you are the lifeblood of what we're doing here. It's about people. It's not about programming. It's not about the guest. It's not about the host. It's not about the technology. It's about the people and the hearts of each one of you sharing with one another. That's what it's about. Thank you. You are an important part of this ministry. Now that's the heartbeat, the lifeblood. Okay, the heartbeat is the social media posts that are out there. If you are not subscribed to our RSS feed, I would like you to give me a call tonight, tomorrow, whenever you want to, so that you can easily find those posts and pile on, put points on the board. This is how we're going to win. Okay, it may be as simple as just clicking a like, but this RSS feed will line them up for you. There they are. Go out there and give it a like, and if you can, give it a comment. If you can, give it a repost. Whatever you are led to do, folks, pile on for the team, because together we can get there when none of us could do it individually. I love each one of you. I will leave you with 2 questions. The first question is, let me think about this. What is the boldest thing you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And the second question is, when was that? And the challenge for myself and each one of us is quite simple. Never be satisfied with either answer.